Hello and welcome to the 2013 Executive Speaker Series presented by the Lincoln Sudbury Investment Club. I'm Danny Hession, here today with Jeremy Vale and Chris Knightley. And we have the pleasure of introducing Ms. Jennifer Lane. She is the president and founder of Compass Planning Associates. And she's here today to tell us a little bit about wealth management.
Yes, well, I started Compass Planning Associates about 16 years ago, and the primary purpose was to help people with financial planning. So folks oftentimes have an idea of what money they have, and they pay their bills on time and don't really have difficulty with the day-to-day stuff, but looking at the big picture and looking at how am I going to make my money grow over time and really work for me, what is that going to look like? And so I get into financial planning basically to help people with that. Well, I was a commercial pilot prior to starting my company, and so I kind of was into flying and thinking about flying, and with financial planning being direction and flying being direction, I started doing some kind of just brainstorming with my advisory board, and the stuff we came up with ended up being Compass. And we originally thought about Compass Financial, but didn't like the fact that it was really focused on just the financial part, and because the company was supposed to look more towards the planning, we focused on the financial planning. That's where the planning came from, so Compass Planning. And then Associates because it's more than just me. Yeah, okay, well, I get up, brush my teeth, no. I check email and get ready for whatever the client meetings are for the day, because typically in my role I go from one client meeting to the next. Now, to review and do the high-level analysis, I usually spend a couple of hours in the morning doing that. So typically we'll do that fairly early in the morning, and then that way I've got early morning for myself. So that's where my life actually happens, in a couple of hours before I actually go to the office. And then it's client meetings throughout the whole day, but also then trying to respond to people fairly quickly as far as questions that they have on their plan, and following up with folks that have done some planning that need to then make some decisions about their investments. Then the later half of the day, the later part of the day, is reviewing the information that my support person, Heather Mahusky, has given me in preparation for the next day, and then also to give investment analysis and recommendations. In my job, or in my industry, there's a big push towards managing people's assets. So most of the companies, or a very large number of the companies, are very focused on, let me know what your portfolio is, I'll manage your portfolio, and we'll do the financial planning on the side. It's kind of a lost leader for them. I've kind of flipped it around. I do the financial planning as the meat of the relationship with the client, and the investment aspect is almost not really secondary, but it's a part of it. So also is the budgeting, also is the retirement planning. All of those pieces are very important. Investments are only part of it. So my focus on the financial planning is one thing that makes us special. We also have a special focus on making our clients very independent. So rather than saying, all right, I'm going to tell you exactly what to do and then I'm going to help you do it, because I spent so much time in flight training, I have a tendency to kind of want to help people to learn it. So I work with more clients that are trying to be independent. They like manage their portfolio up until a certain point where they got too busy, or they just got too crazy, or the portfolio got too big, and they really wanted some outside advice, but they want to take the advice and then go home and do it themselves with someone kind of helping them when needed. So that's really the best client relationship, and that's something that makes us very different, because a lot of companies aren't willing to do that. Yeah, it's actually very big responsibilities, and when you give investment advice, you are regulated by somebody. Either you're a salesperson and you're overseen by your broker-dealer, who then has other governmental regulations to deal with, or you're like me, where you're giving advice and you're not selling the product. So I have to be registered as a registered investment advisor, and I've got to, I managing less than $100 million, I am overseen by the state. So I've got to kind of keep an eye on what the different state laws where my clients live and make sure that I've got the right registrations. But that's only what the government kind of requires. There's also kind of the moral obligation. I've got to really make sure that I find out everything I possibly can about my clients, And a lot of times it's beyond stuff that people would even think. I mean, I'd like to know whether or not they think private school is a really good idea for their kids, or whether or not they're agreeing or disagreeing about when they want to retire, or how much they want to spend day to day. That's the kind of thing I need to know, so that if I go and tell them, make this investment, it fits with what their concerns are and what their personal life is all about. Yeah, the percentage base is, again, back to that focus of, I'll take your investments, I'll invest them for you, and I'll charge a percent. And what I do instead is I either do financial planning by a strict project-based fee, or for my clients that I manage their portfolios, again, it's an annual fee. So I thought the flat fee really kind of took away any of the conflict of interest. It's a little bit scarier because you have to actually say to the client, I would like to charge you $10,000 for this work. It's a little bit less scary to say, oh, we only charge 1%, or we only charge 0.5%. Those are little tiny numbers, and a lot of times the client doesn't really understand what they're paying. I decided at the beginning that I wanted everything to be completely upfront, and that was why I liked the flat fee idea. I also liked the idea of charging a flat fee for asset management because I wanted to be able to say, pay off the mortgage or pay cash for the car. I can really see how my value went down just because I was smart enough to say, pay off the mortgage. The assets shrink a little bit, but I'm still doing just the same financial planning and working just as hard for the client. I thought the fee should stay the same. Oh, well, actually the industry, I think in a large part, is trying to transition, in very many people, over to this model, this fee-based model. Because I do see a lot of pressure on fees, and as people start to look at what they're paying and the percentages that they're paying, they're very cognizant of it, especially as a larger number of people start to retire. The percentage of assets under management doesn't work quite so well when your client is withdrawing money from the account, and in theory the portfolio is shrinking over time. So they're looking at other things. So I think the trends in the portfolio or in the industry are more towards being more upfront, more flat fee pricing, more hourly pricing. There's transitions there that I think are probably good. There are not enough hours in the day. It's, I used to say, now my business is about 16 years old, and the most challenging thing when I began was trying to tell as many people as possible what I did, so that I'd have the opportunity to find people that want my service. So that was a lot of what I spent my time on. Now, most of my clients come from referrals from other clients, or they see me on TV, or they just know somebody maybe either through a friend or on the web they find me. And that's actually, speaking of the web, has really increased quite a bit also. So the thing that I think is most challenging now is just really kind of keeping up with things and being able to provide good client service while still running the business. So we're small, there's 3 of us, and so there's a lot of stuff that all 3 of us need to do individually that takes up a lot of time, that is usually directly related to client processes and services, which is what we work very hard on, but not always. There's always some other stuff, and so probably time management is a big challenge. I really like the financial planning. I have a lot of times people ask me, why don't you just, are you just going to hire more financial planners? And I've had more financial planners working for me, and as one retired and one left the firm, I didn't replace them yet. And part of the reason is I really enjoy the financial planning. So you kind of get to a crossroad where it's, do I want to manage a staff of people and a business, or do I want to keep doing what I got into this for? And I think about that quite a bit, and I really, when I look at the day, and today is actually, as I often have very many of them, a fairly crazy day. I mean, the first meeting was at 9 o'clock, and that's earlier than normal. Normally I start meetings at 11. So I didn't get as much planning hours in this morning, and it started much earlier, and my last meeting ended at 7:30. But I'm psyched about today because I've got you guys, which is a lot of fun. But then I've got some brand new financial plans that I'm starting today with some clients. And the first financial planning meeting is really heavy about their goals and about what they want to do in the future, and that's just a lot of fun. Doing a lot of research and trying to talk to as many financial planners as you can, because understanding the different business models and thinking about what the result is of that business model is something that is really hard to see from the beginning. So if you think, well, the most fun thing that I have is I like doing analysis, I like picking investments, I like researching companies, that's a situation where you're probably going to go more towards a larger company, a model which it might be assets under management, it might be flat fee, but you're more in the analysis side, so you're getting your CFA license rather than doing a certified financial planner. That's kind of a different educational track. So you talk to a lot of financial planners and start to learn the difference. You kind of can make some decisions early on about your education, about what you want to do. A lot of math classes. I think the people that I talk to that are, people are in here trying to work with their investments and everything, and the folks that are really uncomfortable with math and really haven't had any economics classes at all, just because that wasn't their major, it really is a difficulty for them. And people are so responsible for their own wealth and their own financial planning nowadays that they didn't realize the need of that background. So the more economics, the more history, and the more math you can do, the better. On what you want to finally end up doing. If you want to be a financial planner, then you need to be a certified financial planner. And so getting a degree actually in anything, but the more psychology you know, the better, because a lot of financial planning is about psychology. And then during the CFP certificate, or you want to get more into analysis and do the recommendation of stocks and analyzing companies, then doing Chartered Financial Analyst, the CFA, doing a lot of finance classes in college would be better. The last two I wrote, one on 401ks and IRAs, the complete idiot's guide to protecting your 401k and IRA. That's a lot of what I do because I do a lot of retirement planning, so that was good. And the one I wrote for Adams Media, which is the Everything Personal Finance in Your 40s and 50s book, was good also because that's kind of my core client. I wrote a very broad one, which was about 14 years or so ago, called the Everything Get Rich book, which was personal finance. It's such a great field, and it's so important for everybody to learn. The sooner the better.
Well, thank you so much for your time, taking time out of your day to answer all of our questions. And that will conclude the first executive speaker series for the Alice Investment Club.